Good morning, everyone. This is Financial Literacy One-on-One. And most of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Most of Americans are living out of debt. Why is that? First and foremost, you're probably not taking my advice and learning money and being inspired about saving your money, having an emergency fund, doing right by your money, being a good steward, being a good disciple, whatever analogies and metaphors that you want to use to be good with your finances, you're not absolutely doing it. So let's get into some numbers. First and foremost, 63% of Americans have been living paycheck to paycheck since COVID hit. Nearly two-thirds of Americans, 63%, say they've been living paycheck to paycheck since COVID-19 early this year. Now, let's get into some numbers here. A recent study showed that 80% of Americans are caught up in the chains of debt. That's a huge number. This is coming from RamseySolutions.com, giving credit to him. To get a better idea of just how huge, try this little activity, blah, blah, blah. 8 out of 10 Americans are strapped with debt. Now, this is from debt.org, okay? This is from debt.org. The average American has $90,460 in debt. Now, some of you are part of this number, unfortunately, but there's some things that you can do we're going to get into later to get yourself out of debt and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Now, according to a 2021 CNBC report, that included all types of consumer debt products, from credit cards to personal loans, mortgages, and student debt. Now, I know for a lot of you, this is coming from student debt by a long shot. The average amount of debt by generation in 2020. Okay, let's move on. Now, most lenders say a debt-to-income ratio of 36% is acceptable, but they want to loan you money, so they're willing to cut some slack. This is coming from www.incharge.org, and I absolutely agree. Now, many financial advisors say a debt-to-income ratio higher than 35 means you are carrying too much debt. Others stretch the boundaries to the 36% to 49% mark. No, ladies and gentlemen, I disagree with all of those numbers. I believe that if you're over 30%, the same percent that your credit card utilization does not want to be over, so your credit card score doesn't drop, the same amount I'm going to tell you do not be over on your overall consumer debt. Don't be over 30%. Okay? There may be some times where you go over 30%, but they're talking about consistently that people are over 35 and 36% of consumer debt, and this is the way they're living. And they're wondering why they can't do the things that they enjoy to do. Now, if you currently around that much debt, you have a lot of limitations, okay? You have a lot of setbacks. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Let's see who is really holding all of the debt, okay? Is it Generation X? Is it baby boomers? Let's see what generation it may be, because a lot of times this has to do with knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, so on and so forth, okay? So, eternally indebted, the average debt is up to $38,000, okay? And we're going to, just for the sake of argument, take out a student debt. They're saying that credit card debt is 25% of all debt. 2 in 10 Americans spend 50 to 100% of their monthly income on debt repayment. That is crazy. And they're saying 15% people are using for dining and nightlife. 13% for clothing and personal care. 13% for personal hobbies and activities. Now, when you tally this up, you got 26% here and you got 15% there. How much is that? 26 and 15%. You're roughly already at over 40-something percent. Okay? You're already at 47%. You know what? Let me just do the damn math, okay? So we got 15. I know some of you like, man, that's easy math. But we're just going to do the math for the sake of argument. Like I said, 41%, so I was right, of you spending on dining, clothing, and personal hobbies and activities. That's ridiculous. So who is holding all the debt? Now, Generation Z and the younger millennials from 18 to 24 are holding $22,000 per person of the debt. So around 28%. 28% of Generation Z, and just for the sake of argument, we're just going to call the younger millennials Generation Z as well. Each person is holding around $22,000, which is around roughly 28%. And that has to do with student loans as well as credit card balances, okay? Because listen, when those guys are in school, I was an advocate of this when I first went to college. Discovery Card sent me a credit card that had around $500 to $5,500 on it, and 2 weeks later, I was $5,500 in debt because no one never taught me about how to handle and manage my own financial future, my own financial credit and money. No one taught me how to do these things. Okay, I had to learn on my own, and believe me, I fell many a times along the way in the learning journey. Now, my thing is, I wish I had a mentor. I wish I had a guide. I wish I had someone to walk me through so I wouldn't have made those mistakes. Now, out of all the things in life, the one mistake that you don't want to learn from is a financial mistake. I would definitely tell you, teach your kids, teach your loved ones, have them to avoid financial mistakes. It's the worst, okay? It's the worst. Now, older millennials, those aged 25 to 34, are at $42,000 per person, okay? $42,000 per person. And of course, a lot of this is student debt. They're saying here around 16% is student debt. And a lot of these are now buying houses. So mortgage is up to 3%. So 3% of that debt is mortgage. And then it says, as you grow, your expenses increase, okay? Which is absolutely correct. When you get older, you're starting to want more things. Like first you was living in a trailer or apartment or a condo. Now you want a house and a car. You want all of these other things that, you know, pretty much living the life. So we have to take those things into consideration. Let's move on. My generation, Generation X. Now I want to read this because if you notice, the older millennials are at $42,000, okay? And most of theirs at 16% for their student debt. Now, we're only, roughly $5,000 less than debt for Generation X. And it says for those ages 35 to 49, home mortgages are the number one source of debt. Absolutely correct. And some of you are already saying, well, Ross, you know, when you have a mortgage, that is an asset, not a liability. Well, let me tell you, I hate to inform you that your home that you're living in that is building equity is still a liability until you can turn profit on that particular home, meaning you turn into an Airbnb, you turn it into a hostel or whatever the case may be. If you still have a loan in that house, it's still taking wealth out of your pockets. Now, when you sell the house and you make a profit, that's when it turned into an asset. But right now, it's just a liability. Because here's the thing. What if you sell in a buyer's market? Right now, we're in a seller's market, meaning that if you sell your house, you're going to get top dollar. And more times than not, when you sell your house, what it goes into, now you're a buyer. Now you're in a seller's market, so you're going to lose out on the money that you gain from selling your house. But if it was flipped, if it's a buyer's market, that means nationwide that homes are a lot cheaper than it was if you were to sell it. Just to put it into some perspective, okay? So the number one is mortgage, okay? Because in this age, everybody wants a home. You're getting older. You want something to leave to your kids, your family. You just want something of your own. Now, it says here they account for about 32% of the members of this age typically owe. And it says credit card debt is the number two because now you're in this mid-age, 35 to 49 to 50. And the one thing you keep telling yourself is, I deserve this. I want this. I need this. So if you can't buy it with your regular paycheck, you go and put it on your credit card, which is one of the worst mistakes, that you can absolutely make. And it says that while car loans and education debt tie for around 7%, because around this time, you graduated, 18, most people graduate around 18 years of age. You go to school for 4 years, that's 22. You go for another couple of years, that's 24. Some of you might got your doctorates or some sort of the certification. So 24, 26, so you start paying on your student loans. So 9, 10, 11 years later, you at a lower amount that you owe in your student loan, so it only is around 7%. But if you notice, okay, that credit cards and your home mortgage are the larger percent of the debt that you owe. So it's imperative that you guys understand that, okay? Because here's the thing, a lot of times we become unaware of the issues that we have in our finances. Then finally, those good old baby boomers, ages 50 plus, their debt has declined because all their life, ever since they got out of college, they've been paying off student debt. Okay, and I'm just going to read this a little bit. It said those who are age 50 or older had the second lowest amount of debt, which is good news. And it says, and similar to Generation Xers, the top three sources are in order: mortgage, credit card bills, and car loans. But they have less debt than millennials. And then I'm going to jump down here. They said a third of the baby boomers have less than $25,000 put away for their golden years. Listen to that. A third of the baby boomers have less than $25,000 put away for their golden years. Okay, this is according to CNBC and also Northwestern Mutual. Ladies and gentlemen, why are you 50 plus and you only have $25,000 in the bank? And that's a third of the baby boomers. That is alarming. And there are some things that I've been telling for a very, very long time that you need to do. You need to learn to budget. That is one of the biggest things that you can do, is learn to budget effectively. I mean, anyone can write down a monthly budget. However, writing down a budget and living on it are two totally different things. You can write down a budget all you want, but if you don't live by it, then guess what? You ain't gonna have no damn money when you 50 plus. See, when you budget effectively and actionably, you track your spending, okay? And creating a budget is a verb, okay? It's an action. Following your budget is a verb. It's an action. And you stop spending when you run out of money. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have any more money, but you stop spending when you run out of money. A budget that actually works has all of your expenses built into it so that you will not be surprised when your car registration and taxes are due. It happens every year, for some states 2 or 3 years when it comes to car registration. But most states nowadays, you pay car registration every year. You pay taxes every year. It also helps that you deal with fluctuating bills like electric, food, water, okay? Heating bills, and all those different things. Because take, for instance, my HVAC is on override right now. It's supposed to be at 78 degrees, but the house is at 86 degrees. I don't know what the hell is going on. I have to call somebody. I'm sweating here like crazy. But nonetheless, this is the biggest step you can take to stop living from paycheck to paycheck. It can also help you from having periods when you go crazy with spending and blowing all your money for the rest of the month. And then, come on, cut back your spending. I mean, once you have established a working budget, you need to cut back on your spending. This will free up money to help you enable to get out of debt. And you can put into an emergency fund once you pay off your debt. But you should always have a little bit in your emergency fund regardless of your debt. That's just a key note there. Have 1,000, 2,000. I like to go with 2,000. I know for some people that's a large number, but depending, I would really like to aggressively save $2,000, hold it, then start paying off your debt. Now, you're always going to pay the minimum of balance, even though you're aggressively saving for that emergency fund. But believe me, with the current times, everything is rocky. The pandemic and it hitting this, dips and lows, and now it's rising back up in the UK, and it may come back over here to America, and our cases may rise and people may lose jobs. So you have to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. So I'm gonna go with $2,000. I don't care how much you make, $25,000 a year, $35,000 a year. I don't care. Have at least $2,000 in your emergency fund and pay the minimum while you're saving for that. And once you get to $2,000, aggressively attack all of your debt. Now, the challenge in the beginning, when you have more cash in the bank, is to find ways to save in nearly every category. That's the key thing. I mean, whether it be cutting food costs, entertainment, and even family vacations, some of the things that none of us want to do, but this is some of the things that we ought to do. I mean, the key to cutting back is to challenge yourself to spend $50 or less per week on groceries. So you say, well, and I know that's dependent on your family size, but if you are a family of one, a family of two, then guess what? $200 to $300 should be enough for your groceries. You have to really think outside the box and be very keen and very cunning on the way you go about shopping, when you shop. Are you going to be a couponer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, if you work on cutting back in increments is more manageable, if you will be more likely to be successful. You can't just kind of do cold turkey, essentially. You have to find different, trick ways for your own self. Because I do things like this, and this is just an example of how I trick myself into doing things that I'll be lazy in doing. If I wash clothes, right, I'll leave those darn clothes in a wash machine, in the dryer for years on end. But what I'll do is right after they dry, I take them out the dryer and throw them on the bed. And I'll go do something else, and I'll come back. It's 8 p.m., it's 9 p.m., I'm tired, and I'm like, damn, I got to put up all these clothes. But it's the one thing I've done that helped me to get things done, okay? I just put them on the bed, and I do them if I'm tired or not. But anyway, and when it comes to saving, ladies and gentlemen, and when you're cutting back, if you save the extra 10, extra 20, extra 30, put it inside your savings account and let that add up, okay? So you should be setting aside money each and every month, Some of you may be $50, some of you may be $500, but you should be saving money each and every month, okay? I didn't say invest, I said savings, because you want that emergency fund to be solid just in case anything happens. Okay, another one. Get out of debt and stop using your damn credit cards. Get out of debt and stop using credit cards. Get out of debt and stop using your credit cards. Because some of you cannot control your habits. Some of you are swipe genius. Some of you are swipe wizards. Some of you are swipe magicians. You just think that if you swipe and when you see that bill is going to go away at the end of the month. No, you can't make that bill vanish. Yeah, you owe American Express. You owe Visa. You owe MasterCard. Yeah, you owe them those thousands of dollars. I should know. Okay? So your debt is eating up a portion of your paycheck each and every month. And logically, if you continue to do your same methods and routines, you won't get out of debt. You'll just continue to use your credit cards. You'll have more debt at the end of the month than you have credit and or money. Now, if you stop using your credit cards until you are completely out of debt with the exception of car and house, could you believe that you will start saving and having more money and your credit score will rise simultaneously as you're getting your finances in order? This is absolutely wonderful. How do I know? Because I've done it. I stopped using credit cards for a very, very long time. I saw my savings go up. I was able to invest more, and my credit score rose to a whopping 810. I could literally, they don't even ask me for a freaking job, freaking pay stub. I can go, I went into Porsche and I was like, hey, I want to try the four-door sedan Porsche. And they said, well, where's your credit score? And I'm like, oh, it's around 810. Oh, here's the keys. Here's the keys. And of course, I dressed the part. But nonetheless, it was a correct credit score. But what I'm saying is a lot of times when you have a tremendous credit score, they don't care about your job. They don't like, well, let's see proof of your employment. Why? My credit score 810, I'm doing something right. See, you get what I'm getting at? So there's a lot of perks of getting out of debt and stop using your credit cards. Basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now, when you're doing this, avoid taking out a car loan or other types of loans until you've paid off your debt completely. You only buy a car if you absolutely need one, meaning your car is decimated. Your car was totaled. Your car engine and transmission went out, okay? I'm talking about extreme emergencies. See, your emergency fund can help you pay for your car repairs if you had that $2,000 in it. So you, of course, build that back up. But, oh, well, let me get a new car because my alternator went out. If you got $2,000 in the bank, you can fix that alternator. It's not going to cost no damn $2,000. Most likely to get that alternator fixed is going to cost you $500 or less. It's depending on your car. Okay? So if you want to speed up paying off your debt, you may want to take out a part-time job. I mean, there's some things that you guys can do, either be remotely or there's a lot of side jobs that you can do. One of my shirts in the front says "My money makes money." On the back it says "side hustle." Okay, I've had 2 and 3 jobs at one time. It absolutely works. Okay, so those are some of the things. I didn't want to bore you guys this morning, but those are some of the things that you guys can do to absolutely help yourself and put yourself in a better situation financially. But you have to first start psychologically in your head, then start with that freaking budget, and then start thinking about places you can cut back, okay? And then last but not least, man, listen. Stop using those damn credit cards and get yourself out of debt. This is Financial Literacy 101. Learn money and be inspired. And lastly, be very disciplined. I'm out.